I want to go through fixed asset module because it is a module inside of NetSuite that some people need, especially as they have a lot of physical goods that they need to do some depreciation over time. And I know that you recently completed an implementation of it along with the rest of a NetSuite implementation. And we can go through some of that unique use cases. I was part of that as well from a solution designing on the sales cycle and
Mhm.
how kind of aligned but I'm hoping this to be a little bit of an education video for people to know what fixed asset module does in the first place. Usually accountants are pretty familiar with it, but it's good just to give them a baseline understanding of it. And then maybe we can explore ways that we can customize things around it to create some automations just to inspire people on what's possible, the art of the possible. So to start with, Michael, can you give a brief overview of what the fixed asset module does and what people can expect from it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the fixed asset module in NetSuite, or FAM, fixed asset management, is really just a module for maintaining your fixed asset records. So it introduces a new custom record type into the system called the fixed asset record. And then along with that, it has a few supplementary records like depreciation history, or the asset history records. And it all comes together to just give you a really concise, accurate picture of what are my fixed assets, who's in charge of them, where are they located, things like that. And then you can very clearly see what's the depreciation schedule going to look like for this fixed asset. How much is it depreciated up to this point? What's that look like going forward? The FAM module really gives you just a great view into all of that, anything fixed asset management.
And so we know NetSuite is your GL, it's managing the books. And then most of the time when people don't have a fixed asset management module, they're probably doing an Excel and then running a summary journal entry every single month. So what is the difference between that approach versus fixed asset module?
Yeah, well, I mean, it just automates the whole thing because it has a record of the asset itself. Let's say it represents a vehicle, or in the case of the customer I just worked with, there's like Internet of Things devices that are on site with a customer that have been capitalized. It tracks the condition and the lifetime of that physical item, and then that's because it has these supplemental records that keep track of like the depreciation schedule that it's been on, what's happened, the whole history has it been written down at all. The month end depreciation is just all taken care of for you. There's an interface where you just go to run depreciation. It shows you a list of assets and how much is ready to be depreciated, and you just click go. It's as simple as that.
So then every single month, it will automatically track that and hit the GL all by itself. They don't have to do that monthly. Okay. So, I know that a lot of people just end up doing it manually because there's not too many assets and it's easy enough for them to track and don't want to pay for the module. And then there's some people that have much higher volumes and it's just as distracting to them. Now, you have a lot of different things that you can do within fixed assets. So you're setting your original price, and typically straight line depreciation is probably the most common, right?
Yeah.
And then you're doing, what about if it gets damaged, or what if you need to make an adjustment?
Yeah, so that's all taken care of too. There's an easy write down feature, so you can write down the current amount, and then it will recompute on I think it's a daily or weekly basis. It'll recompute what those future depreciation amounts are supposed to be based on the write downs you've done.
Okay, so you can do that and it'll automatically update. So it's really just updating a simple configuration of value within a field of that fixed asset. So pretty straightforward
Hmm.
then. Let's
Yep.
say that I want to automatically create fixed assets in bulk. I can think of a couple ways to do it, and I'm just curious on your thoughts. Let's say a certain item type, whenever I sell it, needs to be a fixed asset. What are your thoughts on different ways to accomplish that?
Yeah, so this was the exact use case of one of my clients recently. Is they sell IoT devices, Internet of Things, that they want to capitalize because they're still going to be productive assets for them after they've gone to a customer site. And so what they do is, rather than just realize the expense when the items are shipped and put on customer site, they want to capitalize that. And so there is an easy way to create a fixed asset record. In this case, we had to create a journal entry first to readjust that accounting impact, because at the fulfillment stage, it's going to hit your COGS. In this case, we want to readjust that to stay on the balance sheet. But the fixed asset module is great. It's really smart. It can see whenever you debit a fixed asset account, it goes, hey, I bet a fixed asset is about to come into being here. And there's an asset proposal interface. You can go look at that proposal interface and it'll say, hey, based on these debits that hit these particular accounts, it looks like you're trying to create a car fixed asset or in this case, a like IoT device fixed asset or electronics based on the GL account that it hit. And so it's really nice in that way. It'll detect, it doesn't detect item fulfillment. So that was why we had to do a journal entry in the middle there, but it will detect transfer orders, purchase orders, vendor bills. There's a lot of different transactions that it will kind of just keep its eye on and say, hey, you look like you've just increased your fixed asset balance. I bet there's an asset here.
I think there's two scenarios that I'm aware of this scenario. And I think the one that you described is where they sell the product and ship it to the customer. So it's out of their warehouses. It's technically with the customer. So that occurs on the item fulfillment, which is why you had to go create the fixed asset and the journal entry, because
Mhm.
typically when you perform a fulfillment, then it is off of your books because you've sold it. So in that scenario, you had to reverse it out and create the fixed asset to remain on the books even though it's with the customer.
Yeah, to keep the balance on the books, but the stock is still relieved from inventory.
Yep, exactly. And then there's
Yep.
another scenario that fixed assets can dynamically say, let's say I sell computers. Well, the 2025, 2026 computers, let's say I keep a bunch in stock, but they're not selling. I probably want to depreciate my inventory that I just keep in stock, my general inventory for these electronics. What about just dynamically having them be part of a fixed asset if the item attribute equals laptop?
That's a really good question. That's not an aspect of the module I've had firsthand experience of, but I
Yeah,
could,
I've seen one part of it to dynamically do it, which populates with saved searches. And I think you did something harder when you did it for this recent client where you had to bring it back onto the books. We had to do some customization there. There is a save search feature that lets you dynamically create those fixed assets. And that's like an example that was just thought off the top of my head there that
mm,
would apply in that case. If you wanted to dynamically, when you bring inventory in house, and maybe it's serialized inventory and it's just stuck on your shelves and it depreciates over time, then that could be a scenario where, okay, it's inventory, it's still on your books, but you want to depreciate that inventory that is on your books.
I mean, I think it's that alone is kind of a testament to how useful the fixed asset management module is in NetSuite. It's a really massive module. It's I haven't really seen a case with fixed assets that it hasn't been able to handle.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. I agree. So thanks for going through those and talking to those different examples. I think it illustrates the different ways you can modify using the flexibility of NetSuite, and this how it can really automate however people are doing those journal entries today, whether it's manual. And it is true, there's a cutoff point. It does make sense to do it manual and just create a journal entry if you have low volume. But for businesses that are doing much higher volume, it's a great module. And the fact that we can do things within NetSuite ecosystem to script. It's pretty interesting to be able to not just implement the module, but also you can do automations with just journal entries by themselves because the journal entry is a scriptable record. So pretty neat some of the automations we can do there. So thanks for going through that. And I'm sure people will be working with you soon as they reach out on our website. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. Good talking to you.